Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavalabha. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavalabha. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana. Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Jaya Jamuna Tiravana Chari. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jamuna Tiravana Chari. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavalabha. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana. Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tiravana Chari. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya kunja bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavalabha, Jaya Girivaradhari, Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Yashodanandana, Jaya Braja Janaranjana, Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tiravanachari, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Haribo, 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 Nitai Gauda Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stotra Satashi Shrimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Little Vishnu Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stotra Satashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj ki. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai Gau Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. I got it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya Narang chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato jayamudirayet Nasta-prayeshu bhadreshu Nityang bhagavata sevaya Bhagavad-Gita shloke Bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. So reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 29. Krishna and the gopis meet for the rasa dance. So is it 33 and 34? So I'll read 33 and the translation, then we'll do 34 together. Kurvanti he tvayi ratim kuśalāḥ ātman nitya-priye pati-sutādibhir ārti-daiḥ tanna prasīda parameśvara masma chindyā āśāṁ dhṛtāṁ tvayi cirād aravinda-netra. Translation by the followers of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Expert transcendentalists always direct their affection toward you because they recognize you as their true self and eternal beloved. What use do we have for these husbands, children, and relatives of ours who simply give us trouble? Therefore, O Supreme Controller, grant us your mercy. O lotus-eyed one, please do not cut down our long-cherished hope to have your association. We can repeat together. Expert transcendentalists. We'll do it again. Expert transcendentalists always direct their affection toward you because they recognize you as their true self and eternal beloved. What use do we have for these husbands, children, and relatives of ours who simply give us trouble? Therefore, O Supreme Controller, grant us your mercy. O lotus-eyed one, please do not cut down our long-cherished hope to have your association. So now text 34, you can respond. Chitang sukena bhavata pahritang griheshu yanir vishat yuta karavapi griyakrite Padau padang na chalitastava padamudilad Yamaha katang vrajam ato karavama kingva Chitang sukena bhavata pahritang graheshu Yan nirvachat yuta karavapi grihe yakrite Padau padangna chalatastava padamulad Yamaha katang vrajang ato karavama kingva. Chitang sukena bhavata paharitang griheshu. Yan nirvishat yuta karavapi griyakrite. Padaupadang nag chalitastava padamulad. Yama katang vrajang ato karavama kingva. Kena bhavata prahagraheshu. Padaupadam na chalatastava padamula. Mataji's. Chitam, our minds. Sukhena, easily. Bhavata, by you. apahritam were stolen. Griheshu, in our households. Yat, which. Nirvishati, were absorbed. Uta, moreover. Karau, our hands. Api, as well. Griya krite, in household work. Padau, our feet. Padam, one step. Nachalitaha, are not moving. Tava, your. Padamulat, away from the feet. Yamaha, we shall go. Katam, how? Brajam, back to Braj. Atau, and then? Karavama, we shall do. Kim, what? Va, furthermore. Translation. Until today, our minds were absorbed in household affairs, but you easily stole both our minds and our hands away from our housework. Now our feet won't move one step from your lotus feet. How can we go back to Braj? What will we do there? Repeat after me. Until today, our minds were absorbed in household affairs. But you easily stole both our minds and our hands away from our housework. Now our feet won't move one step from your lotus feet. How can we go back to Braj? What will we do there? Translation, purport. Shri Krishna had blown into his flute, and the intoxicating music that had come out of his holes had stolen the minds of the young gopi girls. Now they had come to see Krishna to demand back their stolen property. But they could regain their minds only if Sri Krishna accepted them and engaged with them in conjugal affairs. Sri Krishna might have replied, "But my dear gopis, just go home for now. Let me consider the situation for a day or two, and then I will give you back your minds." In reply to this possible argument, the gopis state, "Our feet refuse to move even one step, so please give us back our minds and accept us, and then we will go." Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruvei Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistang Stapitang Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarane. Srila Prabhupada ki. By Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we're given a little glimpse at Krishna and his intimate affairs. Just like in this world, the highest pleasure that people seek is to have that intimate relationship between boy and girl, family, the loving exchanges which may occur. Why do people work hard all day and all night? For the pleasure of their family, and it's an impetus. Without an impetus and some satisfaction, one cannot do his duties. So the gopis were saying, we were doing our duties nicely all this time, but then you had to go and blow your flute, play your flute, and that sound vibration it's described in the Nectar of Devotion that it even pierced the universe, that Ananta Shesha, holding all the universes on his hoods, was swaying and dancing to the melody of Krishna's flute. And Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma became maddened by this sound vibration. So you see the power of the music, singing, dancing, Narada Muni, Bhajai Vina, Radhika. He's singing, and he's singing melodious songs glorifying the Supreme Lord. And this makes people's, those who hear, according to their realization and their advancement, it's perceived differently by different individuals. So in this 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna's personal activities of appearing like a human being, but only just to attract us. Krishna's purpose is to bring back all the conditioned souls. Depending on time, place, and circumstance, we're all bewildered by our karma daiva nitrena. Every action, there's a reaction. If you're walking on the street, you're stepping on ants, it's sinful activities. You know, even when you're making the spices, there's so many living entities. Knowingly or unknowingly, everyone in this material world is committing sinful and pious activities. As a result, everyone is forced to take a material body and try to somehow squeeze some enjoyment and pleasure. But that pleasure and enjoyment that's being sought after very enthusiastically, people are looking for that kind of relationship that, oh, you know, that you're my life and soul, you're everything for me. But it's all based on the temporary emotions and feelings. But these are real emotions and real feelings which exist in the spiritual world. Just like we're hearing about the Muni-chari and the Shruti-chari gopis, that they've actually achieved perfection and transcendental realization. We heard a few times how the gopis didn't study the Vedic literatures or perform austerities and penances, but somehow they were spontaneously attracted to Krishna, madly in love with Krishna. But they have performed austerities and penances and very pious activities. It's described the cowherd boys have an opportunity to be with Krishna and play in Braj in his Leela due to vast amount of pious activities. So the gopis were actually learned transcendentalists, munis, yogis, and many nitya-siddhas coming from the spiritual world to participate with Krishna in his loving affairs. But those who are mundane, when Shukadeva Goswami was describing some of the intimate relationship that was taking place between Krishna and the gopis, Parikshit Maharaj, being very advanced in understanding, he could understand the mind and hearts of those who are materialistically motivated. Just like we see, if you see pictures of Krishna and the gopis, generally they're portrayed in such a way to invoke lusty desires, or see, even God himself is enjoying in the same way that we're enjoying. And Shukadeva Goswami said, why are you asking again the same question? But Parikshit Maharaj, he took that as himself to be a neophyte, wanting to understand the intricacies of what is meant by this relationship between Krishna and the gopis. Not that we sit and discuss all day long, the loving affairs, how Krishna's moving his eyebrows, and just by glancing at the gopis, that their mind is completely bewildered. They have no more interest in taking care of husband and children and household duties and facing the mother-in-law after such an episode of leaving home unprotected and breaking all the social regulations which govern by Vedic principles what is chastity, what is proper behavior. They were not at all concerned as to the repercussions of their neglect of their duty or social customs. They were simply expressing their love for Krishna. And Krishna, in a very joking way, he called them, and they dropped whatever they were doing on the spot and immediately came running. Just like something what the World War II movie, when the siren goes off, all the pilots, they were there, you know, whether they're playing cards or eating, whether they drop whatever they're doing, they run to the airplane to go do the battle. Might be a poor example, but anyway, the gopis did not care about what they had to do or not do, because Krishna's potency is so powerful, so strong. So one who is fortunate enough to have an introduction and to understand that there's something that we're looking for, Satchidananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss, especially the happiness. Everyone's looking for happiness. But it's being told to us throughout the Vedic literatures, Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, that the happiness, temporary happiness of society, friendship, and love is not going to quench our thirst. We're in the desert. We're thirsty, and we know that there's some water somewhere, but we're chasing the water in the wrong place. The desert means that again and again, I'm pursuing to gratify my senses, thinking that this will bring me happiness, but instead one is frustrated, one is pretty miserable. Material life means miserable life of repeated birth and death. It's meant to be that way. If the prison house was a great place to be, you know, great social club, they have a good gym there, you can work out, and maybe, you know, a nice cafeteria, whatever they might have. But it's simply misery. There's first class, second class, third class prisoners. Someone might be thinking, oh, I have a big bank account. I have a beautiful family. Why I should not appreciate my family members? You know, how can I think that to neglect my family or that they're just troublesome? Not in a mundane, irresponsible way. It's just that when one understands Krishna is the supreme creator of everything, if you think about the Supreme Lord, by His internal potency, manifests the spiritual kingdom, Goloka Vrindavan, Vaikuntha Loka, and there's unlimited living entities in many different relationships who are fully satisfied in that reciprocal relationship, whether it's an awe and veneration, friendship, you know, parental, with love. All these, we can think that, well, I think I want to be Krishna's friend. I'm going to follow Subal or Sudama, you know, or follow Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda's loving reciprocation. That might be some good sentiment, not that one to become Nanda or Yashoda, because then there's a tendency, due to our false ego, to take Krishna to be impersonal, or see him in a mundane way that, oh, he's just a human being, maybe very popular, you know, all of India knows Krishna, but he's just a historical personality who performs some heroic activities which have been exaggerated over time. You know, the people who are atheistic by nature. And as a result of the frustrations of not finding that happiness in the material world, in family life, or in the social settings, then one might strive for performing, according to the Vedic literature, the yagyas, austerities, tapasya, you know, jnana, vairagya, reading many, many books and taking some direction and instruction according to his own ideas. But generally, unless bhakti, devotional service, is introduced, most end up entering into the Brahma Jyoti, or liberation. But this liberation without activity becomes troublesome, because after some time, although there's bliss and happiness, the lack of variety causes the living entity to fall down again back to this world. He might be born in a good family, in a rich aristocratic family, and have an opportunity to maybe pursue again spiritual life, because we never lose whatever little bit performance. Neha vikaramo nasyosti pratyavaya navidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. There's no loss or diminution in this path of bhakti or devotional service. Even a little advancement can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. What is that dangerous fear? Repetition of birth and death. Remaining in the material world, remaining under the control of the mind, control of the senses, and simply dedicating and wasting our time to material pursuits which are temporary and miserable at the end. They may seem very pleasurable and exciting in the beginning, you know, that excitement, that youth and that beauty. When Krishna said only the beautiful, thin-waisted girls, only they're allowed to stay here. No one else. Krishna only wanted to have the beautiful. But Krishna, they have all transcendental spiritual bodies, but for the purpose of maintaining this lila, it appeared as though gopis were restrained and some left their bodies, or they had to focus on Krishna in meditative form and not have his physical presence available to them. So all these things are described in detail by the great acharyas. We can go deep into these things, but we should just know that Krishna is the most beautiful, lovable object. He creates the spiritual world, the Vaikunthas. Then he manifests himself as Mahavishnu, then Garbhodakshay Vishnu, then Kshirodakshay Vishnu, meaning creating all the material universes, entering into the universes. And then Kshirodakshay Vishnu, he's present in the milk ocean. So whenever there's trouble in this universe, Lord Brahma, all the demigods, especially on earth, there was so much trouble back then, 5,000 years ago in particular. Kamsa was causing trouble with all his demonic friends. So, Mother Bhumi, Mother Earth, these are all personalities. We may not see, some people might question, well, why we don't see the demigods anymore? They don't come here. Because people in Kali Yuga don't have the ability to perform the yagyas and sacrifices. It says that the wives of the demigods created the situation for this Shankara, you know, the Mayavadi philosophy to come. We don't know the depth or the intricacies of how Krishna appears. He establishes Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, but still, because people are looking for that happiness in this world, and they have various tendencies towards philosophy. So, in one sense, they stopped the yagyas so the husbands would not leave them and stay with them. And this is just some side note that was in the Nectar of Devotion. But we're very fortunate to have Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, as we heard the other day, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, 4 months Lord Chaitanya spent with Venkata Bhatta, father. And imagine the Supreme Lord himself manifests, showing his godly, divine nature to Ramananda Roy, Sanatana and Rupa Goswami. They understood this is the Supreme Lord, and personally being instructed. You say, well, why Krishna didn't write the books himself? Or he's empowering his devotees, and by his very life, he's setting the example of renunciation. As I mentioned previously, Lord Chaitanya, he had beautiful, young, devoted, chaste wife, loving mother, Mother Yashoda in the form of Sati, Mother Sati. But he renounced for the benefit of all of us, that even though we may be very, very comfortably situated with our blanket and our heater on, still we get up and we come to worship Krishna and see Krishna, despite the fact that we have created a nice family, and we don't neglect the family. The beauty of Krishna consciousness is that Prabhupada is teaching us how to utilize everything in his service. You know, the singing, the dancing. It's not that, oh, no, the Prakashananda and the various Mayavadi philosophers were criticizing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why you're dancing, chanting like a sentimentalist? Don't get overly sentimental. You should be studying Vedanta, studying philosophy. But there's no meaning to this knowledge and all our austerities and all our sacrifices if it doesn't awaken our love for Krishna. What is the purpose of austerity? What is the purpose of all the things that we perform? It seems difficult for us because in our conditioned state, Nobody likes to renounce the idea of, having what they've experienced as enjoyable according to modern civilization. All the billboards are telling you, go have a drink, stay cool, smoke, cool cigarettes, and you're breathing fire, but you'll be cool. And then you got a fancy convertible car with the beautiful girl, you're driving off into the sunset. But then it all turns into, the children hate you, the wife hates you, the husband hates you, the in-laws are always fighting, there's always concerns about money and health and various issues. It's difficult. It's difficult to actually, when Prabhupada, he's speaking to one lady in New York in the early days, he said, why you don't get your son married? She said, well, if he can support the family, he can get married. And Prabhupada said, I didn't know it was such a big austerity to take a wife and get married and take down the responsibility. But it's a big responsibility. All those who are married, they should know that once you get married, then you're in charge to take care of the health, the welfare, and development of the other person. Then you have one or two children, and some people have twins. They have an instant family, a couple of sets of twins. I know somebody had 2 sets of twins. Anyway, the children are being fortunate who are taking birth in this society because they have, again, an opportunity to continue their devotional service. We may think, oh, maybe there are gopas and gopis, and yes, this is Krishna's family. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness means just that we're inviting all over the world. We had our book marathon because the books are incarnations of the Lord. It's called, the sages were concerned about the welfare and the future of the religious principles, and who's going to uphold religious principles and guide us if Krishna's gone. No, the form of Srimad Bhagavatam is manifested, this Amala Purana. The Srimad Bhagavatam is an incarnation of the Lord. Bhagavad-Gita speaking, his words are non-different than Krishna. It's just a matter, if you ever went to a 3D movie, without the glasses, everything is very blurry. But when you put the glasses on, everything comes into focus and context. So we need premanjana churita bhakti velochanena. And that salve of love develops on the eyes by the process of devotional service. The gopis were the best servants because they didn't care about anything else other than giving pleasure to Krishna, giving happiness to Krishna. And Krishna created such a beautiful atmosphere in Braj, Vrindavan, with the wonderful breezes, and even the gopis were complaining, breeze, don't agitate me, because when Krishna, you'll hear later on how Krishna actually invoked in them the pride to think themselves, oh, we're the best lovers, or we're the best friends of Krishna, we're actually the topmost. And Krishna doesn't, he wanted to increase their loving tendency, because when you have something, when there's a separation from that very thing that you're attached to and very much in love with, then the meditation becomes very strong and the feelings become even, accelerated, aroused more so. So Krishna, we're feeling separation from Srila Prabhupada, feeling separation from all the great acharyas who are bringing this message of Krishna consciousness. I mean, who has such great fortune to hear about these intimate pastimes, this whole 29th chapter, and all the chapters leading to this chapter are relishable. It becomes relishable, more relishable, and most relishable. So in Vrindavan, Krishna is relished in Mathura, more relishable in Dwarka, and most relished in Vrindavan. So we're in Vrindavan Dham, and we want to appreciate the beauty of Krishna Balaram, Lalita Vishaka, Radha Shama Sundar. The mood of the gopis is one of how we can serve Krishna's pleasure, and Krishna is very enchanted by Srimati Radharani. When he was holding up Govardhan Hill, and he saw the beautiful gopis, and his hands started trembling a little bit because he saw their breasts, and he was feeling a little bit uneasy. and Balaram was thinking of something. He was smiling, and Krishna felt shy that, oh, Balaram knows I'm looking at the gopis, you know. So Krishna was shy like that. And this whole mood of loving reciprocation, when we hear about these kind of things, then we think, oh, you know, Krishna's just an ordinary person. He also has these kind of feelings. But Krishna's swarat. He invokes these desires, but he doesn't need anything. How do you give someone who has everything? And Krishna, he's exchanging loving, ultimately embraces with Srimati Radharani, which he himself has manifested. Srimati Radharani is not different than Krishna. But in order to have that loving relationship, Krishna manifests Srimati Radharani. And also from Srimati Radharani, expansions are all the gopis and goddesses of fortune, and all the different levels of intensity of loving reciprocation which are taking place between Krishna and Srimati Radharani and the gopis and the queens of Dwarka. In the similar way, Krishna has an intimate, loving relationship with each and every one of us. But our true swarup, our true identity, our true spiritual body is covered over by the separate desire to enjoy, not recognizing that we belong back in the spiritual kingdom. We don't belong here trying to imitate the activities of Krishna as enjoyers, because ultimately Krishna is describing very clearly to Arjuna, Mamu Pechita Kaunteya, that this material world is a miserable place with repeated suffering of birth and death. So we're given a fast track, we're given a very accelerated course of how to please the Guru, please the Acharyas, and please Krishna. And by pleasing the Guru, there's an awakening of a spiritual desires. And just like a hungry person, with every morsel he eats, the hunger is dissipated, and he's feeling nourished and satisfied. So the more we're chanting with loving feelings, the more we're hearing daily, when we become attracted to hear, that I want to hear about Krishna, I want to hear about the process of devotion, I want to also participate and serve my spiritual master in giving enlightenment and guidance to all the suffering conditioned souls, then to that proportion of our surrendering to Krishna, to that extent, we'll actually start experiencing the emotions of when you see Krishna. I mean, the hair standing on end. I'm sure that sometimes you've had a very unique experience, which a little shivering in the body, tears in the eyes. These are our preliminary symptoms, not that we artificially want to show people, look at I got tears, I'm crying. You know, we're not eager to be an artificial transcendentalist, but they'll naturally awaken as we advance further and further in Krishna consciousness, these emotions and feelings. And once the love for Krishna, for devotional service, enhances more and more, then we're not interested in, we have no more responsibility to demigods, to the ancestors, to the forefathers, to the family members, to society, all these things. But we should not artificially drop everything and think that, okay, I'm free of all these responsibilities. Now I can go to Vrindavan and enjoy, maybe I'll drive a rickshaw and have a good time, make some money. I can open a business here because a lot of people are coming here. This is not the reason for being in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is meant for dedicating ourselves to Krishna consciousness. Today is also Lochan Das Thakur disappearance day? So I'll read a few things. Sri Lochan Das Thakur appeared in this world in 1520 AD. That's 34 years after the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Also, Lochan Das wrote a biography on Lord Chaitanya entitled Sri Chaitanya Mangala, and he wrote many devotional songs. He was there's so much to be said about Lochan Das Thakur. He was a disciple of Sri Narahari Sarakar Thakur, a dearest associate of Lord Gauda Rai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. My hope of hopes is to be near the lotus feet of Sri Narottam Das Thakur and serve him with my very life. The cherished desire of the fallen Lochan Das is to be allowed by Narahari's grace to sing the glories of Lord Gauranga. My Lord is Sri Narahari Thakur. I am his servant. Bowing down or bowing before him, I beg for his service. This is my only aspiration. That's from the Chaitanya Mangala. So Lochan Das Thakur is expressing the mood of dedication to his spiritual master, who is non-different than Krishna. The spiritual master is considered to be the Supreme Lord, physically manifest to guide us back home. Lochan Das Thakur wrote Chaitanya Mangala, which tells many pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, not revealed by Vrindavan Das Thakur or Krishna Das Kaviraj. He mentions an especially touching conversation Sri Gaurasundar had with Vishnu-priye Devi the night before he took sannyas. Being a talented musician, Lochan Das told Mahaprabhu's pastimes in beautiful poetry filled with fire and rhythm. Poetry filled with fire and rhythm. You know, like when you hear in the evening time the kirtan's blazing, that's fire and rhythm. People are just, you see the visitors, pilgrims, they go out of their mind when they see the beauty of the deities and they hear the chanting, enthusiastic chanting of the kirtan. So fire and rhythm later, boys, okay? Common people could easily understand the divine nectar of Sri Chaitanya and awaken their religious feelings. As devotees regularly chant the Vedic epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, Gaudiya Vaishnavas still wander through Bengal reciting the Chaitanya Mangal. Lochan Das Thakur also wrote many songs praising Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and Gauridas Pandit. Lochan Das stresses that Raganuga Bhaktas must take shelter of Gadadhar, Vrindavaneshwari, to attain Radha Govinda Prem Bhakti. Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to print and distribute Lochan Das Thakur's Sri Chaitanya Mangala. Srila Prabhupada was very fond of his bhajans. While singing Parama-Karuna, Srila Prabhupada would plunge into the ocean of Gauranga Prema. Prabhupada wrote an extensive commentary on this bhajan, Bhajo Bhajo Bhai Chaitanya Nitai Suhrida Vishvasa Kori. Lochan Das asked everyone, my dear brother, just worship Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda with firm faith and conviction. Don't think that this chanting and dancing will not lead to the desired goal. It will. It is the assurance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that one will get all perfection by this process. Therefore, one must chant with firm faith and conviction. His samadhi is in 64 samadhis area. Sri Lochan Das Thakur ki. There's so much about his mother, father, and place of birth and activities. The great acharyas are not to be seen as ordinary personalities. They come to assist in spreading the preaching mission. Just like yesterday we gave awards to many of the Sankirtan devotees who dedicated time and energy for distributing Prabhupada's books. And by distributing these books, giving great pleasure to the Guru and Krishna. And if Krishna is happy, then Krishna, it's not that the gopis just at one time heard the flute and left home. They were thinking, every night they were with, every day they would meditate on Krishna, seeing him go off with the cowherd boys and the cows and calves to the grazing. And coming back, they were just waiting and anticipating with great rapture. They would focus on seeing the beauty of Krishna's face and and the different activities. So they were a little surprised why Krishna was all of a sudden, becoming so renounced. Every night we're enjoying, and now you're sending us home. Why we came here? You called us here with your flute to enjoy with you. So we can all enjoy with Krishna by the service mood, though, by the mood of service. The gopis had the topmost mood of service, and Srimati Radharani, Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhani Suta Devi Pranamami Hare Priye. So Vrindavan, the queen of Vrindavan is Srimati Radharani, and all the gopis and gopas are assisting in the loving affairs between Krishna and Srimati Radharani. And all of us can participate in that. Don't think that we're so fallen and so distant that there's no hope that we're even going to have such an opportunity. But hope against hope, we should just humbly serve, try to serve the message of Srila Prabhupada and help push on this Krishna consciousness movement. Prabhupada said ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is where people are chanting the Lord's holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chanting the holy name of Krishna and hearing about Krishna and remembering Krishna. This is real international society. Prabhupada's mercy. Srila Prabhupada ki. So we have a few minutes if there's one or two questions, comments. Yes, Sri Ram Prabhu? Give Sri Ram a chance one time. Then.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, thank you for the class. So, the question is association. So, association like a neophyte devotee, we associate with a neophyte devotee. Is that association going to really help? Because most of the places we read that you have to associate with pure devotees, and it's so hard to find pure devotees. And the question is, in that association, is that his association, like if the person doesn't have the fire of divine consciousness, how is that going to really help the other person who is in neophyte devotee? And sometimes it happens that when we try to associate with pure devotees, what happens in the process, like we say, familiarity brings content, so we take it for granted and then let it fall down. So how do we balance this?
So association is very valuable. We're looking for association with pure devotees, but when we associate with neophytes, it sometimes brings us down. But a really advanced devotee sees Krishna in everyone's heart. And not that we've come to that level, but when you see that each and every person is engaged in service, Srimati Radharani sees everyone is nicely engaged in Krishna service, but herself is not qualified. So also, utility is the principle, common sense, that you see by the behavior of someone who's eager to chant Krishna's name, who's hearing and chanting and participating in a very, positive way in his pursuit of Krishna consciousness. You can say that, oh yes, I like that, I want to follow that. But if you see someone who simply wants to talk about politics and or all the faults of everybody, how they, what are we going to do about this? It's a big mess we're in. Then that's going to bring us down to that level. So we treat everyone with kindness and with respect and see the Lord in everyone's heart, and everyone's actually a lovable, pure devotee at heart, but they're covered over by lust, anger, greed, and many, many distractions. So we have to choose carefully, and that's described what is a neophyte, what is a madhyamadikari, what is an uttama adhikari. Not that you're walking around always looking, where's that uttama adhikari so that I can have the best association. The uttama adhikari is Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Lochandas Thakur, all the great acharyas who have given us the topmost understanding of Krishna consciousness. And the best association is by constantly hearing and chanting the holy name. So we have to be discriminate. Don't get yourself in a situation where there's always this kind of talk, then you go away from that. We don't need to hear the Gramya Katha. We need to hear the Krishna Katha. because Krishna Katha will help ultimately relieve our burning heart. Otherwise, Gramya Katha is just going to distract us and cause us further repetition of birth and death in this world. Just be careful in your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You were speaking about that we get this opportunity in Vrindavan to hear Bhagavatam and this one and everything. So after hearing also sometimes the realization is not there.
So we have an opportunity to hear Bhagavatam, but after some time of hearing, the realization is not there. Yes, it takes time. It's not easy to realize Krishna and come to the highest platform, but utsahan nischayat taryat tatat karma pravartanat, that enthusiasm, determination, and patience. And patience is described as a very valuable asset. Just like when a couple gets married, the wife or the girl can't think, well, where's my baby? And it takes some time. You know, you serve nicely together, and then the family will develop. So our maturity will grow. You know, we've had billions of lifetimes of conditioning, and due to good fortune or maybe pious activity, we find ourselves in the shelter of Vrindavan and the devotees and Srila Prabhupada. So just keep taking the medicine of chanting Krishna's name, keep hearing the Leela, then it'll become very flavorful, very, intoxicating. You'll become more and more attracted that I don't want to hear nonsense, I don't want to go do nonsense, I'd rather stay here and chant about Krishna. Then it'll naturally awaken. It'll come naturally. Just like when you're hungry, you think, well, I'm eating a few bites, but I'm still hungry. Keep eating. You'll come satisfied. Any other question? Everybody's eager for the kirtan and prasad. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.